Всем привет! Data Literacy в России СНГ продолжает свой проект по изучению книги DAMA DMBOK 2. Сегодня у нас в гостях будет уникальный человек, один из создателей книги. Это Крис Брэдли, он вице-президент по профессиональному развитию в компании DAMA. Мы попросили Криса рассказать о том, как создавалась книга, рассказать о организации DAMA, как они присутствуют на рынке, чем они могут помочь бизнес-пользователям и разработчикам. Также попросили рассказать о сертификации, потому что такой процесс у них существует. Дополнительно хотел бы отметить, что интервью у нас будет на английском языке, но с русскими субтитрами. Так, начинаем. Hello, Mr. Bradley.
Good morning.
Could you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about the DAMA, about the mission of the DAMA worldwide?
Certainly, yes. Well, good morning, Vladimir. My name's Kристофер Брэдли. I've worked in data management for over 40 years. So actually 1979 I first started, did a degree and a postgraduate in chemical engineering. But I've worked in data management all of that time. And I was one of the early people, not the earliest, but one of the early ones in DAMA in the UK in 1983. But DAMA was founded in the US in the very late 1970s. And it stands for the Data Management Association. And its whole purpose and mission is to promote and support professionals in data management worldwide. So it's our strapline is that we're the premier international data management professional organization. It's run. It's volunteers. We only have a few staff, and those are administrative staff. But people like me and my fellow members of the international board and the representative sort of board members from each of the countries, we're volunteers. So this stuff, is done for the benefit of the data management community. Its mission is really to, as I said, a second ago, to promote the importance and the understanding of data management. And the reason for that is because, I'm sure everybody knows just how important data management is. But lots of people think, and a lot of our business colleagues think, that a magic piece of technology will solve all of their problems. And as we all know, that isn't true. I've been around long enough to know there's been many waves of magic technology that will come along. And the technology is great, but without the building blocks, without a degree of reliable, believable information, then we're whistling in the wind. So that's our mission, to promote the importance and common understanding of data management worldwide.
Thank you. I know that you are one of the authors of the DAMA of the DMBOK 2. Tell us a little bit more about the book, about its purpose.
Yes, absolutely. So actually, I was one of the authors of DMBOK 1 as well. So the DMBOK, it's the Data Management Body of Knowledge. That's what the abbreviation stands for. We created the first one in 2009, and we released version 2 in very late 2017. And I'm in the process right now of making the plans for the next release. So maybe a little more of that later. The purpose of the DMBOK is manifold. It's to promote some common language, some common understanding, some common terms with regards to the topic of data management. Many of the people listening to this interview, and perhaps yourself as well, Vladimir, might have seen the thing that's called the DAMA wheel, the different disciplines of data management. So in DMBOK version 2, we have 11 of these disciplines. Actually, we call them knowledge areas. But those are things like at the very center, there is data governance, there's data modeling, there's data architecture, security, master and reference data management, etc. So there's 11 of these knowledge areas. Well, it was us in DAMA who put together that artifact, that wheel, to suggest what the disciplines of data management are. We're not promoting specific tooling, we're not promoting specific vendors, but what we're doing is we're creating a language, a common framework, so that people worldwide can understand what the key issues are with regards to data management. Also, it's to highlight a lot of the common business environmental factors, because much as though we love data management, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It doesn't exist, in its own right. It's there to support our businesses, our business colleagues. So the business environmental factors are all about things like the culture, the organization style, the way in which decisions are made in one company versus another company. I work extensively in the oil industry, for example, and you have some people who are very, very centralized. All of the decisions are made from head office and then it goes out. And you have some where it's very, very federated. And that's fine. That's the good business organizational decision. But we in data management, we have to recognize and we have to work with that business cultural environment if we're trying to make our, for example, data governance successful in that. One of the business gurus that I read a lot about, a gentleman called Peter Drucker, he had a great quote when he said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So if you don't, and I know this is true from my work, from my work in Russia that I've done, you have to work with the culture. There's no point in being, really brave and suggesting something that is absolutely radical and brilliant, because you won't get to day two. It's like sort of charging the machine guns coming out of a trench. It's very brave, but you won't be around on the second day to try and move it forward. So a lot of those things, those cultural issues, we include in the DMBOK. And we go into a moderate amount of detail. There is DMBOK version 2, but it's 600 pages. It's really it's really thick. So in 600 pages, it's obviously not a minor. It's not a minor overview, but you can get even more detail on each of the other topics by reading other people's books. So for example, there's about 40 pages about data modeling. And that's great. And that gives the reader, a very good grounding in what data modeling is about. But if they want to know more, they should go off and get, other people's books. That happens to be one I wrote, but there's loads. There's loads of them. So the DMBOK, the whole purpose of the DMBOK was to get this common language to identify issues that people who are professionals in data management around the world will face, these business issues, to highlight some of the core considerations in each of those areas, modeling, quality, master data, metadata, etc., but also to point them to further reading. And also, and the very, very sort of important one is to provide the basis for the professional certification, which I know some people in Russia are interested in too, and I'm no doubt we'll come on to that later.
So big book means a lot of authors. How many authors took part in compiling of the book, and how you ensure the consistency of the material?
Yes, so there was lots of people. We had in excess of 100 reviewers and commenters, people who had given sort of contribution. So there was, in excess of 100 people, but there were about a dozen, just over a dozen sort of core authors, and we had a prime editorial group of 5 of us, and the 5 people on the main editorial group were headed by a lady who did a great job called Laura Sebastian Coleman, and she had the unenviable task of trying to pull all of these people together with their different egos and their different opinions. Even though there's 624 pages, there's hundreds of additional pages that were not included. So trying to filter it down, trying to condense it, trying to level set it was quite a challenge.
Do you have maybe partnerships with the universities in US, in Europe, or in other countries? Because real great and big materials means you must have such kind of partnerships, I think.
Yes. I mean, the short answer is yes. The longer answer is not enough. So there's 7 universities that we've got direct sort of partnerships or engagements with. And that's another one of these things that I'm really sort of striving to, with my Vice President of Professional Development hat on, is that I'm really sort of pushing for us to get more heavily involved and to widen those partnerships. So there's 1 in the US, 2 in UK, 2 in France, no, 1 in France, 1 in Helsinki, a couple of in Australia. And I'd say actually one of the really big things that has been a driver for the courses at universities has been the dare I call it, the dangerous inflated expectation of big data and artificial intelligence and machine learning, because several of our university partners have told us that the courses that sell, because we all know universities have to make money, so the ones that sell in the universities are data science, advanced analytics. And this is great, and it's sexy, and it's cool, and it's fun. But there's no magic silver bullet. All of these things depend to work. They depend on a degree of accurate, reliable information. I know, and you know, Vladimir, that it doesn't have to be perfect, but we can't just believe the hype of some of the people who say, just take your data and throw it into a bucket, throw it into a lake, and magic will happen. Because that's not true. It doesn't happen like that. And so our reach into the universities is going to increase even more because of that demand, because of the, I don't want to say failure, but because of, in some cases failure, but in some cases the failure to meet the inflated expectations in the big data world.
I think it's also important to hear your opinion. So how do you recommend to use DMBOK 2 in a practical way?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So in a practical, in a practical way, use it as a guideline. Don't use it as a recipe book. More practically, I would say use it to for 3 main areas. One, to make sure that everybody has a common understanding of the different disciplines of data management. 2, to help you to understand which areas you're strongest in and which areas you're weakest in. So it's almost like doing a maturity assessment to say, this is the area that I need to focus on right now. And then 3, to use that as a guide to help you, getting deeper into that area or areas that you want to focus on. I would suggest that taking it as a Bible or as a cookbook and following every bit is probably not the most. I'm not saying that's bad, but I'm saying that's not likely to be, the most productive use of it.
I know that you have the certification. I think it's called CDMP.
That's right.
What is this?
Great. Yeah, great question. So CDMP, it stands for Certified Data Management Professional. And it's an international and vendor agnostic professional certification program for data management professionals. And it's got 4 levels. The first level is called associate, and in order to get the associate level of certification, it's one examination, and that's called Data Management Fundamentals. And that's basically all of the disciplines of data management, that wheel I was telling you about, the 11 disciplines of data management. So it's kind of like the 1 mile wide, 1 yard deep, or what do we say now, a kilometer wide and a meter deep. So it's something about all of the disciplines of data management. You have to pass that one at 60%. Then the next 2 levels are called practitioner and master. And you have to have passed the fundamentals exam, the something about everything exam, but a slightly higher score, 70% and 80% for master. But in addition to that, you have to do 2 of the 11 topics. You have to do 2 deep dive exams. So for example, you might choose to do business intelligence and data warehousing, or data modeling, or data governance, or data quality, for example. And you have to take 2 of those exams and pass those at 70% for practitioner and 80% for master. And for the master designation, you also have to submit and discuss your professional experience with one of the fellows of CDMP of DAMA, because what we're looking for is really solid 10+ years of experience. I'm one of the fellows, and that's what the 4th level is the fellow, and that's for people who have done all the exams, written loads of books, have contributed extensively in the data management world, have done outstanding works in the data management world, contributing, like I say, very significantly into DAMA and the CDMP, and they've been working in it for at least 30 years. And I think, and also are still alive, probably counts as well. so that's why I'm one of them.
Great. Should I be the DAMA member before I will do the certification or not?
Got it. Right. And that's a good question, because what we do now since March 2019 is when you take the certification now, you get 3 years of DAMA Central membership as part of taking that certification. And so anybody who needs to renew their certification after they've taken it, they need to be a central member. So what would happen, Vladimir, is you take the exam. Suppose you're not a member of anything. You take the exam, you pay the money, it's $300 US. There's some discount at the moment because of pandemic. There's a 15% discount. You pay that $300 less 15%. And let's hope you pass. And so you pass. And so you have become immediately, you've become an associate, CDMP associate, and you have got 3 years of DAMA Central membership. You may choose, and I would strongly suggest to everybody that they should also join the local chapter, the Russia chapter, the France chapter, the Germany chapter, etc. They should join whatever their local chapter is. And then after 3 years is up, they will need to renew their international, their central membership, because that's the way in which the certification is monitored, is renewed. Because we, DAMA Central, we do not have a legal right to insist on members' data from Russia, UK, Germany, France, Australia, Saudi Arabia. So that's why you would automatically become a member of DAMA Central.
Mr. Bрэдли, thank you very much for your time. Very interesting interview. So I wish you a good day, and I hope we will see us maybe in Moscow next year after the pandemic.
I hope so. I enjoyed my time. It was December, very late December 2019. It was the first time I'd been back to Moscow in 30 years. So I enjoyed it. The airport's changed tremendously in that time. Great. Thank you very much.